This story happened back in 2021 when I was only 12. My aunt and my cousins were staying with us at the time because they had just moved to our state for a fresh start. My mom and dad were both in Florida, and my brother was at my other aunt's house 2 hours away. So it was just me, my twin sister, my aunt, and my cousins at the house. One day, my sister and I were playing outside by our house. The side of our house has a big yard, big enough that, if you wanted to, you could build a small house there. There's also a large tree at the end of the yard, near where the street ends. Due to the placement of my house, you can see 4 different streets from there. If you look to the right, you can see a long street with the police station, fire station, and courthouse. If you look to the left, you can see a closed-down corner store and another stop sign. So, as I said, one day my sister and I were playing outside when a car came speeding down the street in front of our house. As soon as the driver spotted us, the car slowed down. It was an old, beat-up family van. The way it slowed down right in front of us was already suspicious, but we just brushed it off. Then, when we saw the van drive by a second time, we decided to move a little closer to the house and continued playing. When the same car drove by a third time, it stopped at the stop sign, which gave the driver a clear view of our house. This time, we decided to go get our aunt. Once we explained what was happening, she came outside with us. Now, my aunt is very short, the same height as me and my sister at the time. It was clear the guy was watching us from his car because my aunt started waving him down, trying to get his attention, and he responded even before she put her hand down. She started cursing him out, asking why he kept driving by and staring at us. He mumbled some lame excuse, then quickly drove off. After that, my aunt went back inside, but my sister and I didn't want to go in yet, so we just stayed on the porch. Not even 2 minutes later, he drove by again. My sister and I ran inside to tell our aunt, and we all drove to the police station. They said he hadn't really done anything to us, so they couldn't take any action. However, we were able to get his license plate number and gave it to them. A week later, a girl went missing. Some people think she ran away, but I can't help but feel that it might have something to do with that creepy man. I want to share my ghost experience from 2 years ago. Let me introduce myself briefly. My name is Diana, and my girlfriend's name is Tabitha. This is a true story about an experience we had together. One day, I decided to take Tabitha to a motel near Dodger Stadium in Los Angeles. We enjoyed chatting, ate snacks, and watched TV. When it was time to sleep, I turned off the light. We were lying down, slowly drifting off. Suddenly, I felt someone touch my right foot. I woke up, freaking out since I knew Tabitha hadn't moved at all. I grabbed my iPhone and turned on the flashlight, aiming it toward the nearest TV desk. I was searching for whatever had touched my foot. I looked under the bed, nothing. I checked the bathroom, no one was there. That's when I realized it must have been a ghost that touched my foot. The thought made my face go pale. I decided to leave the light on for the rest of the night. I told Tabitha, "It's obviously a ghost." She replied, "I accidentally touched your foot." I said, "I know you're trying to calm me down, but you didn't move at all while I was awake. I felt nothing until someone touched my foot." Then I asked her to lie down and try using her foot or hand to touch my right foot. She realized I was right because she couldn't even reach my foot while lying down. Tabitha got very quiet. She hid her face, looking scared, and started breathing heavily. I told her, "Let's just try to sleep." A few hours later, Tabitha woke up from a bad dream, visibly scared. She stared at the lamp and didn't stop looking at it. She described her dream to me. A Latino man looked grumpy and angry. He was standing near the lamp, watching me sleep. He stood to the left side of the bed while I lay there, terrified. He was a Latino man with a thick mustache, brown skin, and old-fashioned clothes. He suddenly ran toward me, leaned over me on my left side, and stared angrily into my face. I was so scared that I covered myself with the sheet. I woke up immediately and couldn't stop thinking about him. Tabitha's story woke me up. Her face was full of panic. I told her, "Hold my hand and let's try to sleep." Half asleep, we held hands and closed our eyes. Later, I woke up from a bad dream. My heart was racing. I looked over at Tabitha, who was sleeping peacefully. In my dream, I saw the same man, angry and making plans to kill Tabitha. He was wearing a red flannel long-sleeve shirt. I woke Tabitha up and asked, "In your dream, what was the Latino man wearing?" She replied, "An old, red, long-sleeve flannel shirt." I was beyond shocked. I told her, "We need to get out of this motel room now." We quickly packed, got into my car, and drove away. It was my school break, and my mother suggested I stay with my grandma for a week or more during the holidays. I couldn't resist, since my grandmother cooked the best meals ever. So, I packed my bag, grabbed all my necessities, and my mother drove me to her apartment. We sat down at the table and chatted while we ate lunch. After a while, my mother said goodbye and left. It was just my grandma and me in the house now, and we had a blast. We watched reality TV shows together and shared a lovely dinner. Midway through the evening, my grandma asked me to grab the mattress from the closet and bring it to her room so I could sleep on the floor. I refused and told her, "I'm a big girl now. I can sleep on the pull-out couch in the office." She agreed and said, "That's fine. Just set up the bed yourself." So I did. It was time to go to bed when my grandmother came to my room and said, "It's time for bed now. Put down your screen so you can get a good night's sleep." I laughed and said, "I will. Just let me finish this last part of my show on my tablet." She said, "Okay, that's fine," gave me a hug, and shut the door behind her. After she left, I continued to watch my show. About 30 minutes later, I dozed off. When I woke up, I looked around the room and saw that my tablet was still playing the show at a low volume. I turned it off and glanced at the door, noticing it was a couple of inches open. I remembered that my grandmother had definitely shut the door, but I didn't think much of it, as she used to check on me after I went to sleep, just to make sure I was okay from time to time. So I shut my eyes and tried to relax. After a few minutes, I felt a strange urge to open my eyes, as if something was in the room with me. I looked at the door and saw a dark figure standing outside, visible through the small crack. I instantly froze. At first, I thought it might be my grandmother, but when I glanced at the clock, I saw it was 3:25 a.m. Then I realized it couldn't be her. Who checks on their grandchild at this hour? I was terrified, but I shut my eyes again and tried to convince myself it was just a shadow, that the figure would go away soon. After a minute, I opened my eyes again, only to see that the door was now wide open. My heart began to race, and I broke out into a cold sweat. The fear coursed through me as I felt certain the figure had to be in my room by now. I glanced at the mirror next to my bed and saw a figure crawling on all fours beneath my bed, moving like some kind of otherworldly creature. I was having an intense panic attack, unsure of what to do. Just as I was debating whether to run, the figure came up the side of my bed. I squeezed my eyes shut, on the verge of tears, when I felt a hot breath against my neck and heard a deep, terrifying voice whisper, "It will be done soon." In that time, I bolted out of bed and ran to my grandmother's room. I jumped under the covers next to her, panting and quietly crying. For the next 3 hours, I kept my eyes wide open, constantly looking around the room. I didn't dare take the covers off, even though I was sweating like crazy. I told myself I wouldn't sleep until it was light outside. Looking back on it, it still terrifies me to this day, but when I tell people, they don't believe me, and it hurts not to be believed. I know what happened, and sometimes I wonder what I would have seen if I looked behind me before I ran out of the room.